So I'm going to talk about Nicaragua and women's rights. So just like a review again. So Nicaragua is in Central America, and it's about the size of Maryland. The capital is Managua. They speak Spanish. They gained their independence in 1821. They mainly rely on like textiles, agriculture, and coffee and beef and gold for their main exports and revenue, and they're mainly Christian, like Roman Catholic, and evangelical nation. So I just wanted to let you know that like women have had a very long history of role like in women's rights in Nicaragua, and so something very complicated is the Nicaraguan Revolution. It's very difficult to understand, but essentially in 79, you had like the rebels, the Sandinistas, ending this 44-year dictatorship from the Somoza family. And so some of the main goals of the Sandinista movement, or like Sandinista National Liberation Front, was to empower, they wanted to empower women, improve education and literacy, and like redistribute land for agriculture. So essentially in 1980, after ending this dictatorship, they implemented a lot of different social programs to help with these goals, to help achieve these goals. However, this was interrupted by the U.S. It was interrupted by the U.S. And who tried to interfere in Nicaragua because they were afraid that it was becoming like too much of a communist society. And you have to think like this was a time of like we were still in the Cold War, so the U.S. interfered, which is still kind of scandalous today. But in 84, you had the Sandinista elected president. However, in 1990, the Sandinistas were out of political control. And so you had a loss of like social programs that they had worked to build up in the 80s, and you started to lose those in the 90s. But so women, they just do have this history. And so women had a really big role within the Sandinista revolution, within the revolution. And so they created an organization called the Association of Nicaraguan Women Confronting the Nation's Problem, or it was renamed the Luisa Amanda Esponisa Women's Association. And this was honoring the first woman to die fighting in the ranks of the FSLN. So there were lots of women in the military. They were fighting in the guerrilla militia. They were guards. But they were also created a support network. So mothers are seen as like the backbone of the nation. And so they relied on women's help to create safe houses to feed, clothe, and shelter soldiers and political activists. They organized medical care. They carried messages and food to refugees hiding in the mountains, and they rallied for political prisoners. So this is a picture of a woman soldier, which sometimes like we don't think of as much, but because women were so powerful in this movement, they really started gaining recognition. However, they still have not achieved women's equality and are still fighting for it today. But a huge problem now is a thing that is being coined, the term like is femicide, which is the violent and deliberate killing of a woman. And so essentially there's domestic violence, especially in Central America, is a huge problem. It's a problem worldwide, as we just saw in Sneha's presentation. But I have a video that I wanted to show you all. It's just about 1 minute. And also, just if you see anything or hear anything, there shouldn't be anything too graphic in this video. But if you ever feel uncomfortable, like you definitely feel free to raise your hand and tell Ms. Perry Sanderlin, like if you do feel uncomfortable at all. But this is just kind of an idea of what is going on and why women are so upset. It's a big problem within Nicaragua and Central America. Sorry, let me just unplug something. And sorry, I just have to move places really quickly. But essentially, there's a law that came in place in 2012, and it was against domestic violence against women. And so they defined femicide as a specific crime and expanded the legal definition of gender-based violence to include economic and psychological violence against women, and created stronger measures to protect them. They also banned the use of mediation in cases of violence as well. And so mediation essentially like gives time in order for people to go into courts and talk. It will prevents them from going to court directly and gives time to the males to talk to the women. But that can also lead to more violence and doesn't give women the protection that they need. And so essentially, it's not good. And then in 2013, you had changes to the law because it gained criticism. And because they said that, like, without mediation, it was breaking up families. And so then in 2013, they allowed it. And so that also gained criticism because it was seen as, like, very retrogressive. And then another rule, very harsh ruling against women, is that abortion is a crime in all circumstances. So even like if the life or health of a woman or girl is at risk, or she's like a victim of rape, then it's criminalized if she wants to get an abortion. So this is not good because women should obviously like have a right to their body, and it's up to them and their doctors for their decision. And to be criminalized in every single instance is very upsetting. So I just have a few pictures of different rallies and social movements. So women have a very strong movement. You can see this is like specifically regarding the Law 779, which is about domestic violence here. And then in this one, you can see like different rallies. So this is like this says like a free life of violence. And this was in the town I lived in Matagalpa. This is my host sister right here. I actually stole these from her Facebook page because she's so involved in these different movements. And Matagalpa is a small town, but it was just like when I was there, I could feel the feminist movement, and I was able to be involved in that, and that was really cool. So also like just quickly supporting the LGBTQ community. I was there for their day of like sexual diversity. Again, this is like my host sister, and this is me, and it's just saying like I'm free of prejudice. So there's a very strong movement within Nicaragua for women's rights.